A welcome sight for Bucks fans. Giannis Antetokounmpo makes his return to the floor. We break it down on today's Locked On Bucks.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bucks. I'm Justin Garcia, joined as always by Camille Davis. You can hear me on the Bucks radio network throughout the course of the season. You can find Camille on the Locked On NBA show and the Technical Foul podcast as well. We thank you for making this your first listen of the day each and every day. Today's episode of the show brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And Monarch Money carrying the seal of approval from Frank and from you too, right, Camille? You're a Monarch Money user as
very
well.
helpful. Very helpful.
I guess I'll have to join the cool kids club then. Said at the start of the show, it was the return of Giannis on the basketball floor. So we have what is it termed as?
EuroBasket.
Well, but it's not actual EuroBasket. It's like
like the friendlies
leading up for it. And but nonetheless, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Team Greece returning to the floor earlier Wednesday as we record this to take on Latvia. Always nearly screw it up because of when Michael Rappaport used to be on the Bill Simmons show would mispronounce Latvia. So I always almost fall into that trap. But those are the two teams that faced off. We got to see Giannis versus Kristaps Porzingis. And we saw Giannis ragdoll Kristaps Porzingis a couple of times, and a lot of the highlights being, man, Giannis is just having fun out there. Posted not a monster, but considering the time that he played, a really good stat line in limited minutes through the first half. It was 19 points or 18 points in 9 minutes of work, finished with 25 and 10.
Yeah, and in the first half itself, I think it was 20 points in the full 10 minutes that he played in the first half. Like, just dominant. You mentioned him ragdogging KP. I was like, he was just out there giving him work. It was like, no matter how, just come and get this work. And Giannis had it in abundance for Porzingis today and the entire team. Like, seeing how he was getting to his spots, the mid-range, the fadeaways, dunking, just blocking the shots, getting rebounds. It looked like Giannis. And seeing Giannis play basketball, I've said it before, it's always a gift. But when it's the middle of the summer here, it's August, and I get to watch Giannis play some basketball, I am happy about it. I know a lot of Bucks fans, there's the conversations around if these NBA superstars should be playing in international games and what it means to the teams and woo. But the happiness on his face, I can't recall if it was you or Frank talking about what makes Giannis stay here in Milwaukee, and to get into, we're kind of just speculating of what it might be. And someone said if he's happy, seeing him happy on the court means something. And seeing him play for Greece today, laughing and smiling, it was just kind of you got to remember, it is a game at the end of the day. And you got to have some fun on the court when you're doing it. So seeing him be dominant and have fun today and also stay healthy, that's a win-win-win in my book.
25 points in 15 minutes. 9 of 12 shooting, 4 of 5 at the free throw line. The thing that we really need to celebrate the most. 25 points, 10 rebounds, and 2 blocks. I think he scored the first 7 points of the game for Greece. And again, it's a warm up for EuroBasket, but just getting back into the swing of things, of seeing Giannis on the floor and envisioning carrying that over to Milwaukee, and what we've talked through all offseason, the way that the Bucks, we assume, are going to transform their style of play and play a little bit differently here, and what we see that carries over from EuroBasket to the NBA level. It also brings in, I don't know if stressful is the right word, but that feeling for a lot of Bucks fans that were scrambling to try to remember, what was the streaming service that I used last summer to watch this? How am I going to watch these games? Do I have to sign up for a free trial? I got to set a reminder to remember to cancel it. So welcome back to those days.
That was me today, going what side is it in? Because we even talked about it before we started. It was the Zone before. Now it's this courtside app. And I was like, let me just pay for this day pass, because I'm sure there could have been some other ways, one could say, to watch this stream. But I was like, I don't even have it in me to try to find it here. So I got the day pass to watch the game. And like I said, it was really fun just being able to watch Giannis play basketball. Also laugh seeing his teammates afterwards kind of smacking him. If you saw that viral clip of Giannis smacking his teammate and all the conversation.
Too, I think I forget who it was that pointed out, like, look, I'm Greek. This is why you're seeing that.
Yeah, like it's a friend. Like it didn't look friendly to some people, but like it was out of friendship. Just kind of joking around, horsing around, and to see his teammates all kind of getting on him today after the game made me laugh. Like I'm sure they're aware of how that video has traveled so far, and just kind of having some levity with it. But yeah, finding those passwords, dusting them off, getting ready for this stretch of basketball here because we get to watch Giannis play summer ball again.
We're gonna pivot in the next segment to, I don't know, we'll call it like Camille's gripes, but some things that you have that you wanted to push back on. There's one thing that kind of relates to EuroBasket that caught my attention as well. So we'll softly transition to that. ESPN put together their list of the top 10 players at EuroBasket this season. I mean, it's pretty obvious who the tops are, with Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis all playing in this. So it really should be, let's take those three guys out of it. Who else should you keep an eye on after that? Kind of like when we ranked the Bucks roster, like, well, let's take Giannis out of it. After that, who are the best players here? And they gave some write-ups to expectations for the players, and then kind of editorialized on the career and everything else. And what really kind of, what's the phrase, stuck in my craw with the Giannis one, like, here we go. The write-up of where it just drifts into, here's the career accomplishments, but let's continue to point out, hey, he's only won one championship. Of Giannis finished no lower than fourth in NBA MVP voting for an incredible 7 straight seasons and has won the award twice, though the Bucks have only claimed a single championship in that span. Look, comparison is the thief of joy, as I have preached, and I think we all know at this point. So I hate to do the, but when are we going to see the same write-ups for Nikola Jokic? Nikola Jokic finished in the top 4 6 out of 7 years, won the award 3 times. He has one championship to show from it, but yet we don't see that narrative.
We don't tend to, and calling it out is a place to start. Because I do wonder too, if in the years in the future, like another 10, 15 years, when people look back at this particular era of NBA basketball, understanding like, oh, this was actually the parity era where, championships were ranked a little bit differently here because there was just so many different teams that were able to achieve them. The dynasty approaches of seeing guys, get 5, 6 in a decade, like that's long, long gone at this point. And if people look at it a little bit more, I don't want to say kindly, but just with a different perspective, we'll see. We don't have the answer to that today because that's another 10 to 15 years out. But in the now, what you just did here, calling it out, pointing to it of like, listen, if that's going to be the tone that we use, then let's keep the tone consistent amongst all the guys who fit into this particular box and not just single out Giannis time in and time out.
I mean, if it's a rings culture, fine. Let's carry that over to every single player then. And even if I think it's indisputable that the West is a more difficult conference to navigate and play through, but still all that matters is rings. So let's apply that same logic to every single player here. And to a lesser extent, like, let's start moving those players too of, hey, find a better landing spot, find a better situation. A couple other things that caught our fancy here from the worldwide leader, and some ways for you to have your voice heard and maybe even become a part of this Milwaukee Bucks organization. We'll get into those conversations coming up after this on Locked On Bucks. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes into play. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings you your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, where you can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you've got shared accounts with a partner, Monarch Money helps you easily sync those. They can even spot a few subscriptions that you didn't even know you were paying for. Canceling those alone saves you money every single month. And those shared finances helps you stay on track with your partner, setting budgets, goals, and spending activities all in one place. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. It's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. All right. I mean, do we just want to turn this over to you, Camille, with what was bothering you this week with the narrative surrounding the Bucks?
Grinded my gears this week in the offseason here, 2025 offseason. The ESPN article that came out, it was titled "The Stat That Could Swing Every NBA Team's 2025-26 Season." So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what the stat is going to be for the Bucks. What are you going to point to? And some of the stats as you read through was like, wow, that's interesting. Like for the Celtics, the stat was 99.5%. And that was because this past postseason, the Celtics gave 99.5% of their center minutes outside garbage time to 3 players who are now gone. So it's like, oh, we're going to get some stats like that. Cool. I scroll and I scroll and I scroll and I get down to the Milwaukee Bucks and the number is 1. I'm like, what does 1 mean? And the 1 is because they've won 1 total playoff series since they won the championship in 2021. And I have no idea how that is helpful or insightful to this upcoming season.
What it's going to swing. Yeah.
Right. Like it's not a swing thing. It's a what's happened and why the Bucks are here, unless you're trying to use that as, I don't know, another platform to launch off of like the Giannis wants out type of conversation. But I felt disappointed that the Bucks number was 1 and it didn't really provide any statistics for the upcoming year or anything like that. And it just made me wonder again, like how people look at this team. Yes, we know it's been 1 playoff series win since they won the championship, and also injuries, a big reason behind why it didn't get there for the Bucks. So yeah, I was just disappointed. That's what grinded my gears because other teams got like actual interesting insights based on the number that was provided. The Bucks, not as much.
It was like a clickbait headline for the Bucks specifically, because I thought the same thing when I looked through it and thought like, okay, are we going to have like a number centered around like no team has reached the conference finals with an offense that finished below this rating, and this is where we think the Bucks are going to be, or like 19.6, like no team has reached the finals with a second leading score that averaged fewer than that per game, like something along those lines, or what the Bucks would need to do, or what they shot on threes and wins last season. That's what we're going to lean into. Like, that's what I entered this thinking, like, okay, well, these are top of mind, like things that we've already talked through and said, these are going to be the important things. So it's got to be something like that. And then to just get they've won 1 series since winning the championship. Like, how does that sway this season?
It doesn't. It doesn't. Like, it's what has happened. And again, if you want to say like, hey, this is why they're here now and this is why they pressed the buttons they did this offseason, then that's a whole different conversation and different blurb in an article than what was presented initially here. And like we've talked about how sometimes the national media or narrative around the Bucks can be lazy at times, where it's like, this is low-hanging fruit. Let's dig a little bit deeper. And going into this upcoming season here, it feels very similar where, I mean, things people are pointing to is capturing around the point guards. And it's like, all right, sure. Yes, Dame is gone. So I understand why that's what you're pointing to. But is this really the part of the roster where you're looking at it and you're like, this is the biggest concern? But ultimately, again, this is part of why like the Locked On Network is a cool place to be, because you can pull directly from other teams and get the information. And maybe we're just too close to it, Justin, and we're expecting a little bit too much from some of these other outlets.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of content actually at this point of the season where it's a dead point. And even some of the interaction that we've seen and on our shows of like, didn't we already kind of talk about this? Like, we have tried to not keep plowing the same piece of grass. We recognize there's going to be some carryover, but we've tried to differentiate. But I mean, it's August 20th right now. Like, we still got 6 weeks until training camp and media day starts. We're 6 weeks removed, 7 weeks maybe from free agency and the offseason, really churning out and then eventually grinding down. So like this is that period where it comes to be the, hey, have we talked about this yet? Maybe we could try this. And we've seen a decent amount of that thrown out there. So we had the numbers to keep an eye on. Our qualms with those numbers, though there were some interesting ones in there for other teams. You mentioned the Celtics one, like what I mentioned of like, give me something like that for the Bucks, like the Minnesota Timberwolves. Their number was 21, and that was the past 21 NBA champions have had a current or recent first team all NBA honoree, and that being the importance of Anthony Edwards ascending to those levels if the T-Wolves are going to be a championship caliber team. But we didn't get that for the Bucks. The Giannis write-up for EuroBasket and how we just have to keep twisting the knife a little bit and pointing out he's only won one title and not pointing out the same for Nikola Jokic. It's not all bad on the national scene for the Bucks, though. There's a couple of other pieces of content from ESPN. I mean, most recently, we saw more offseason grades handed out from Kevin Pelton. I think when we went through the first round of free agency for the Bucks, it was pretty so-so that ESPN was more down, and it was Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue that were actually more in favor of what the Bucks did with the wave and stretch of Dame and the signing of Myles Turner. But they did earn good remarks, or high grades, I should say, for their most recent move, which again may not actually see the regular season roster, but the Bucks signing of Amir Coffey, and they have a reported 1-year deal. It is a camp deal, as we've learned, but they gave that a B+ move for the Bucks. And they're right up for all the understandable hand-wringing over the Bucks' lack of depth at guard after they waived injured Damian Lillard to stretch his remaining salary. Just a pause there. Who's criticizing the Bucks' lack of depth at guard? Like, I think
that's what I'm talking about. Like that's it. Like people see Dame is gone, so this must be a big hole.
I mean, we've talked through. Well, you got 3 point guards on the roster. You kept all of your shooting guards in place. Like it's really the small forward position that you would look at and hand wring over that. But the Bucks picking up Amir Coffey, Milwaukee had done nothing to address small forward this offseason until now. Not necessarily true, but not necessarily false. They brought back Taurean Prince on a 2-year deal. Frankly, I'd rather have Coffey, who averaged a career-high 24.3 minutes last season for the Clippers, shooting 41% on threes. There's reasons he languished in free agency until mid-August. He is strictly a role player with a career 15% usage rate, one of the league's worst rebounders for a forward, but both of those shortcomings also apply to Taurean Prince. Funny that he gave us, the dissertation on how to rebound as a collegiate player, and yet that's one of the knacks with him. And Coffey's more than 3 years younger. So they like the move. We'll see if Amir Coffey is on the roster. We both think he will be on opening night, but as they point out, and we've talked about as well, the loser here might be former UConn champion Andre Jackson Jr. Bucks had 14 players under guaranteed contract plus Ajax. His salary is $800,000 guaranteed through opening night. So the Bucks will only have to eat a guaranteed deal to keep Jackson, or would have to eat a guaranteed deal fully to keep Jackson, who started 43 games for the team last season. So again, pretty positive mark there, but there's still some things you look at and say, yeah, that's not entirely true.
Yeah, and I think that's just the way it's going to be. But I wonder for the Coffey grade that people are giving, if it's a little bit of the surprise of like, oh, only a camp deal. Like we expected him to at least be like a vet min type of player, even though he is known as like a super role player. You mentioned the wingspan, not very long. I think it's 6'7" guy with a 6'7" wingspan or something along those lines. People talk about his defense, and he can play some defense for sure. But I don't think he's as positive of a defender as some might attribute to him. Again, knocks down the shots, like just a role player. He does his job well. And I wonder if some of the grades the Bucks are getting for him and being that positive is because of the point in the summer where he's signing and the surprise a bit of like, oh, just a camp. Like I thought he was somebody who'd be on a regular roster deal.
I mean, I did, and I know you brought his name up a couple of
Mhm.
times when we were going into free agency because we both thought like, well, these are the types of moves that the Bucks can really zero in on and say, "Hey, we could sign Amir Coffey, and that would
Yep.
like basically be our free agency." That type of thing is the expectations for where they were. So it was surprising, I think, for a lot of people. Obviously, the shortcomings that they pointed out there are a part of it, but still, I would have assumed there was somebody that was going to give Amir Coffey at least the veteran minimum to be a part of their
Right.
team through free agency, and that was just not the case. So the Bucks benefit from that. Certainly. There's one other interesting tidbit. So ESPN went through and put together a list of the most intriguing matchups that they're most looking forward to seeing here. And there's definitely less Bucks related games on here than we have ever seen before. So we'll get into that and how you have a chance to be a part of the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll discuss coming up next. So there's one game that the Bucks have highlighted here for the most intriguing, must watch, whatever it is, but the most notable games out there on the NBA schedule. What would you guess that to be?
Bucks Pacers. It has to be
Yeah,
Myles Turner's return. Like that's
yeah.
that's the one I think for the Bucks.
It is Bucks versus Pacers, and the first two games are in Indiana.
Mhm.
Last two are in Milwaukee. So Myles Turner's return, it's game number one. His return to Indiana, November 3rd. I think that's a Friday night. Um, Bucks at Indiana. The most shocking move of the summer came when the Bucks, with no cap space, they actually did have cap space, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to, but created that, signed Myles Turner out of nowhere, waived Damian Lillard, stretches $113 million owed over the final 2 years of his contract through the rest of the decade. With Turner now on the team that was knocked out of the playoffs by the Pacers the past two seasons, more fuel has been added to what has quietly become one of the NBA's more intense rivalries. I would agree with all that. I think
Yeah.
certainly in Milwaukee, it is not quiet. In Indiana, too, not as quiet, but on the national scale, you just don't think of Bucks Pacers until you go back and kind of unwind some things and say, like, oh, yeah, played 2 straight years in the playoffs. Oh, yeah, wasn't Indiana that team where there was that ball fiasco and you
Mhm.
had Tyrese Halliburton mocking Dame with the Dame time and then Myles Turner. So these are the types of things the NBA needs. Create more stars, create more points of interest and rivalries.
Absolutely. Shout out to the NBA Cup because that also played a part in like the Bucks Pacers rivalry, starting up. That gave them that extra game 2 years ago against each other with the taunting from Tyrese Halliburton kind of leading to some of the ill feelings between these two teams. And then you follow that up with a playoff series. Then you have this past year where you see each other 4 times being in the same division, same conference, and then you see each other in the playoffs again. And as you mentioned, on the Bucks side of things, it probably feels a little bit more heated, but the Bucks getting Myles Turner, and not only just adding a player of his caliber to the team, but weakening, this rival in the process. Like it just adds another layer to it. And again, if ESPN or anyone was going to point to the Bucks schedule and try to point to a game of like, I'm looking forward to this one, that's clearly one of those ones, unless you're here for just individual matchups. Like you want to see Giannis and Wemby, you want to see things like that. But outside of that, like team versus team, Bucks and Pacers, which it's interesting to think about because in years past, it's felt like there was at least 2, 3 teams every year where it's like, I got a little smoke for them on behalf of the Bucks, and I can't wait to see it. But, with Jimmy Butler gone, with Tatum's injury, Drew back in Portland, all these different moving pieces, it feels like it's really just the Pacers where it's like another team where it's like, yeah, feels like a rivalry. Want to see more of this.
Um, yeah, I mean, it is. We've struggled for so many years to think about who is the Bucks' rival. I mean, I know I've talked through it on other outlets too. Like for a couple years, it was the Heat. Like
Mhm.
maybe it's the Celtics, I suppose. I mean, it's always sitting right there for you to be the Bulls, but it's kind of been like the same story, ironically enough, with the Wisconsin and Chicago football teams of like, well, yeah, I'm not saying the Packers and Bears aren't a rivalry, but they've had this non-overlap where it's just the Packers are good, the Bears are not, and vice versa. And that's been the same story with the Bucks and the Bulls for the last few years. So we finally have gotten it. And I would assume, given what happened in the offseason, it is going to kick into hyperdrive this season. So, leave your thoughts on some of the rankings that we saw here that we just went over with you for the Bucks and Giannis as well. A couple of other pieces of housekeeping to get to here. We put out the survey that we put together. We've had a ton of responses to that already. So thanks to everybody that's taken time to fill that out and give us a better idea of, number one, what are we giving you guys that you like and you want more of, and what are we not providing that you'd like to see and hear more of? So it helps us out with the show go forward. And then also getting your thoughts on the offseason, some of the moves that the Bucks have made here, and just your overall feeling about this team. I've got to say, in some of the responses that we looked through so far, I've only looked at the Bucks team related ones so far. Those have all surprisingly pretty much aligned with, I think, where both you and I are in terms of like how many wins, where will they finish, your expectations. So it feels like we're all on the same page here.
It does. There were little surprises of maybe I didn't expect as many people to be higher on certain things where I'm like, oh, I would have assumed that Bucks fans were actually a little bit lower on this. For example, how they feel about John Horst based on certain things I've seen on like Twitter and social media, but the survey results are painting a different picture. So that piece of it is fun to see. And just the responses, especially when people have a chance to write things in. Some of the answers that are coming in have made me audibly laugh out loud from time to time. So it's real cool. Like, it's the off season. Like, this is a really fun thing, I think, just to kind of get a base of how people are feeling as we head into this upcoming season, excitement levels for this team, how often people are going to Bucks games, how you feel with the NBA Cup, this team, of course. So like, if you have not yet done the survey, please do. We have a link in like the description as well, just so you guys can click on that for easier access as well. But the more responses we get, the better. And it'll be really fun breaking down all of this data on the pod as we get it.
I thought you were going to say you were surprised that there weren't more. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to spoil the early round of results that we've seen for one of those questions. There's one other piece too. So maybe you watch this show, maybe you listen to the podcast and you think like, I could do that. You're probably right. You probably could do components of this job. And now is your chance to do something similar to it. So the Bucks have put out a call to be a part of their in-arena team. They have these auditions every single year. If you want to join the 414 crew, the Rim Rockers, Bucks Beats, anything that's done in the arena entertainment component here, even in-game hosts that you see. So you can register for the auditions there if you go to nba.com/bucks/entertainment, nba.com/bucks/entertainment. They have different links from there for each of the crews. So if you want to be a part of the 414 crew, which is the hype squad that walks around the arena engaging fans through live promotions, concourse activities, giveaways. They participate in community events throughout Milwaukee and Wisconsin as well, things like pep rallies and any other events that the Bucks have. So you can register to try out for that group. Those auditions will be Wednesday, September 3rd, and I believe it's in the afternoon there. But again, you can find all this information at bucks.com/entertainment. If you're more nimble and good on a trampoline, you can register to try out for the Rim Rockers. That audition is going to be Monday, September 8th. You got Bucks Beats as well, who are the musicians all throughout the arena and on the floor at Fiserv Forum. So it's a chance to get out there and get your voice heard, to be a part of the arena crew for the Milwaukee Bucks. I was a judge, or whatever, however you would term it, for some of these auditions the past couple of years. It was me and Lisa Byington and I forget who else we had, but we had people rotate through there. And it is a great group of people. I've said it before, especially last year when we had Mel on and we're talking about the experience that she and I had working together with that team. That was the most fun I have ever had at any job in my life. Was, not for the obvious reason if the Bucks won a championship, it was fun, but that group that you get to work with is truly some of the best people out there. So if you want to, keep the door open and get in with this organization in the entertainment avenues, bucks.com/entertainment, head to that site and register for some auditions to be a part of the In Arena crew. We mentioned on one of the earlier shows this week too, we are tentatively / locked in planning on 3 shows this week. So as of this moment, this would be the last of the week, unless anything else breaks. And then next week, more than likely the same deal where we will have probably a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday show and take off Monday and Friday. The week after is the week coming back from Labor Day. I don't know about you, Camille. I doubt we're going to feel up to a Labor Day show on Monday. So it's probably going to be a Tuesday through Friday for the week after that. And then we're right back in the swing of every single day on the show. So in totality, we end up taking off, 5 days through the summer, which
that's it. Yeah. A very short summer vacation.
Certainly much fewer than it was a year ago for this group. Without giving away too much, I will say we do have one guest booked on the show next week. And how do I want to tease this? As by being an everydayer, Camille and I are very much into the sweet science of professional wrestling. One of the organizations has an event, I believe it's this weekend, called Forbidden Door, where it's usually like somebody from this organization and somebody from this organization comes together. It's going to be our version of Forbidden Door on the show next week. So I think you can maybe start to figure out who I am talking about through that point. If you thought about 2 of the 3 local sports talk stations that have a post-game show about the Bucks. So we'll have that coming up for you next week on the show. That will do it for today's show. Anything that we missed, Camille? Anything else you want to throw out there before we sign things off here?
Last thing I'll throw out there, back to the in-arena talent. Shout out to the Grand Dancers. That's probably my favorite.
That's who I judge. And that's where the talent was.
Love them. Shout out to the Grand Dancers. Everybody's a Grand Dancer.
Yeah. And the numbers are all kind of interesting.
The jersey numbers, I love it.
Like, I'm willing to commit to it. All right.
Listen, when I'm 55, how I think 55 is the youngest.
55 is the youngest. Yep.
I'm about 20 years out from being a Grand Dancer myself. Listen, got to stay limber. Got to be ready for the moment.
Yeah. And again, I'll throw it out there one more time. Bucks.com/entertainment will get you to all the individual links to sign up for your auditions if that is something that you're interested in. Camille mentioned it too. We'll put the link in the show description for the survey. We've got a ton of responses already. Greatly appreciated. So we'll link that here on this show in case you missed it. That'll do it for today, though. For Camille, I'm Justin. We'll talk with you guys once again on Locked On Bucks.